Solo or Jacob?
Well, based on the actions of Solo Sikoa and the MFTs over the past several months, it's been the numbers game that has really exemplified this accumulation of power by Solo Sikoa. The cage, in theory, neutralizes all of that and makes this a one-on-one matchup. Fatu against the man who calls himself Solo, but rarely has been.
Well, this steel cage match for the United States Championship brought to you by Breath Step. Kill bad breath, become legendary. Defended that championship against Jimmy Uso at Saturday night's main event last month. Steel cage, though, as Solo well knows, is a different ball game.
What a return to great heights it has been for Solo Sikoa after the world started writing him off.
Introducing the challenger from Sacramento, California, weighing in at 291 pounds, the Samoan werewolf, Jacob Fatu!
Jacob Fatu in his very first SummerSlam, the former United States champion, heading in to his first steel cage match in his WWE career. This is the 5th time at SummerSlam that we have had a steel cage matchup, the first since 2001. Back in 1990, the Ultimate Warrior beat Rick Rude. In 94, Bret Hart with a big victory when he beat his brother Owen. In 97, Mankind beat Hunter Hearst Helmsley inside a steel cage at SummerSlam. And then we had a tag team matchup in a cage back in 2001. Jacob Fatu, who at one point in his career, Wade, said, "I love you, Solo." And now it's nothing but disdain.
Jacob Fatu loved Solo when Jacob Fatu was comfortable in the role of soldier. Unfortunately for Solo, Jacob Fatu outgrew the soldier's uniform and started making some battle plans of his own. Those battle plans led him all the way to the United States Championship. However, Solo and his MFTs brought it back to the family.
The prestigious United States Championship match is underway. The official Daphne LaShawn inside the cage. Harley Race, of course, the late great Hall of Famer, the very first United States champion. Dozens of WWE Hall of Famers have held this title over the years.
One more chance.
Solo reminding Jacob Fatu that he is again locked in the cage. Made some comments about the fact that Jacob has been in jail before. Solo Sikoa tried to get him arrested a few weeks back as well.
Solo Sikoa just made one final offer to Jacob Fatu to come back to the family.
Well, it's not going to happen. I think Jacob's made that pretty clear over the past couple of months. For Solo Sikoa, he's really got to stop this high-octane style of offense from Jacob Fatu.
Yeah, but everyone forgets that Solo Sikoa, the former street fighting champion of the islands, the former enforcer of the bloodline. This man is double tough too. He might not be as flashy as Jacob Fatu, but he is just as dangerous.
No doubt, and Jacob Fatu now going to mount Solo in the corner. Headbutt after headbutt after headbutt by the Samoan werewolf.
This is exactly what Jacob Fatu has wanted. No more sneak attacks, no more family politics. just pure, unadulterated violence.
Yeah, lock me in the cage with Solo and I'll take care of business. He just delivered that flying corkscrew elbow.
Let's not forget, it was Solo Sikoa that brought Jacob Fatu into the world of WWE after management had consistently said, hell no. Other family members from the Samoan dynasty had said, hell no, this guy is just too dangerous, too uncontrollable.
Oh no! Jacob walked into the cage by Solo. And yeah, your point's right, and you are accurate that did happen, but that it was the way that Solo treated Jacob once he arrived here. Looked down upon him, expected him to do menial tasks for him. Never really appreciated or respected Jacob. And now Solo splashing him into the cage.
Solo Sikoa knows Jacob Fatu better than anybody is. Any of us. He knows exactly how to control Fatu.
Oh, and let's not forget Solo's bitter too, Wade. I mean, Jacob Fatu cost him the Money in the Bank contract.
Well, that was really the first shot in this rivalry, in my opinion, and it really didn't work out for Jacob Fatu the way he thought it would.
Oh, and there's that senton delivered by Solo Sikoa, who is now taken over. Does the steel cage match favor Solo or Jacob?
Well, at this point, you have to say it favors Solo Sikoa, but initially I would have said thanks to the fact that the MFTs cannot get involved, it would be Fatu's advantage.
I gave you everything. I gave you everything. You didn't want to listen. Come here.
The thing about Fatu is he's a massive weapon in this game, but weapons need to be pointed in the correct direction. Solo was capable of doing that with Fatu. Now he's a loose cannon. He can go anywhere, and it's not leading to success for Jacob Fatu like it did when he was working under Solo Sikoa.
And wait, here's another interesting statistic. The last time that Solo Sikoa was actually pinned in a match was January at the Netflix premiere by Roman Reigns. Solo has not been pinned since then in 8 months.
Solo is a dominant competitor. He's had a huge impact ever since arriving at Clash at the Castle several years ago.
Wow.
And he's continued in the same vein ever since.
A night Mr. McIntyre will never forget. Solo Sikoa right now is dominating Jacob Fatu. Here's the cover and a kick out by Jacob. And Solo with, and now he's asking the official, Ryan Tran, outside the ring to open the door. Remember, Solo can walk out, both feet hit the floor, he will win this steel cage match. And that would just be like humiliating if that would happen at this juncture with Jacob Fatu holding on. Solo trying to drag him toward the door.
Looked like it was going to be an easy victory for Solo Sikoa, which is an unthinkable result here tonight against someone as dangerous as Jacob Fatu. And that has all been going the way of Solo Sikoa.
And since Solo went back on offense, the official locks the door yet again. And now Solo says open it again. And Solo wanting to just waltz out of here, and Jacob Fatu is just holding on.
Now perhaps lining up the most dangerous move in his arsenal.
Yeah, the Samoan spike. Think about the superstars this has felled over the years. Over the Samoan spike, Jacob able to duck underneath, and now Fatu catches him with a kick.
Just took way too long on delivering that, but bouncing back with a super. Oh, God!
What a collision.
Completely poleaxing the massive Solo Sikoa. So much power held between these two men. Boom! Jacob Fatu getting the better of that one. Now, all men have weaknesses, and Solo Sikoa knows better than anybody how to expose Jacob Fatu's weaknesses. He's done it so far in this match, but got a little too lax there, and has allowed the Samoan werewolf back into this.
The sun is setting in North Jersey. SummerSlam Sunday. Over 56,000 at MetLife Stadium looking on as Solo and Jacob battle for the United States Championship inside the steel cage.
When the sun goes down, the werewolves start howling.
And Jacob's feeling it. And Solo sent into the cage.
Solo Sikoa now getting dog walked. All gas, no brakes, and perhaps no respite for Solo Sikoa.
Oh, and it was that phrase, remember when Solo Sikoa twisted the words, all gas, no brains, that really set Jacob Fatu over the edge. And now Jacob, oh my, oh man, Solo can't believe it. Fatu just bounced off the cage.
A human being reacts to steel like that, you are in big trouble.
And now Jacob picking up the pace, sent time by Fatu. Into the corner now, gonna bury Sikoa. And Jacob, oh! Plenty, Solo Sikoa and Fatu now gonna head up to the top rope. There's the moonsault to Sikoa.
Unfeasible movement, menacingly
And
delivered.
another one! Cover by Jacob! Solo kicked out!
Oh, such a late kick out. Jacob Fatu cannot believe it.
But there were two here. Wait, is that the first time that anyone has ever kicked out of a Jacob moonsault?
Absolutely, certainly a double whammy of them. Never question the toughness of Solo Sikoa ever again.
And now Jacob Fatu's going to start questioning himself a little bit. He hit Solo with his bread and butter and it didn't pay off.
Wait a second.
Oh, look who's here.
Tonga Loa, the massive Tala Tonga down here too.
And JC Mateo, the MFTs.
Circling the outside of the ring like sharks. Kept at bay for now.
My family tree. And now Jacob's got a little backup. And Jimmy Uso's here.
Launching an assault, technically it's 3-on-1, make it 3-on.
Down goes Mateo.
2-on-1, that 1-on-1, but that one is
Oh,
massive.
and Tala Tonga with a boot to the face.
God, he's almost 7 foot tall. And that is the perfect soldier that Solo Sikoa wanted.
And Tala Tonga driving Jimmy into the cage as Jacob looks on, sending him over the Spanish announce table. Jacob can do nothing about it as he's locked inside the cage.
How do you lose Jacob Fatu, yet make your army stronger by recruiting this?
And Tala Tonga still stalking as Solo now tries to drag himself to the door. The door's open. Jacob Fatu going to drag Solo back into the ring. Now will Jacob Fatu.
Close the gate. It's all gas. No goddamn like that.
He doesn't want an escape. He wants to punish Sikoa. He wants the door locked.
Keep the MFTs out of here and let me...
Oh! Samoan spike from out of nowhere. And Fatu kicked out.
And Solo Sikoa got the jump on Jacob Fatu, but Jacob Fatu is just too durable. Take a look at this angle right here. Jacob Fatu wiping out JC Mateo, but beware the danger behind you. How do you miss that guy?
And now the Samoan spike as Jacob turned around into it, but he was able to somehow kick out. Jimmy Uso attacked the group here at ringside, has been dumped over the table. He's down and out. Now Solo Sikoa, perhaps looking to escape. Jump over the top. If he gets over the top and his feet at the floor, he wins the matchup and retains the title. Solo now, up top, up high. Jacob in pursuit.
Just jump into the arms of the massive Tala Tonga from there. He'll save you, Solo.
Well, just got to catch him and then drop him on the floor for the win. And now Jacob Fatu dragging Solo back into the cage. And a headbutt by Jacob, and yet another one. Meanwhile, JC Mateo trying to scale the cage here. And
Tonga Loa too.
Tonga Loa, JC Mateo, Jacob Fatu trying to fight him down. And now this Tala Tonga scaling the cage. And what the hell's he got in his...
Tonga Loa's actually inside the cage now, and Tala Tonga following close behind.
And he's got handcuffs. Tala Tonga's got handcuffs.
Oh, that is a genius move.
Oh my goodness. Tala Tonga handcuffing Jacob Fatu to the top of the steel cage.
How do you win a steel cage match if you're tied to the top?
And the problem is for Jacob, he's handcuffed to the top. He's got Solo Sikoa and Tonga Loa in the ring.
You can't get out, and you can't stop Solo from heading to the doorway.
And I don't think that's going to be the only member of the group that perhaps gets in the ring, but JC Mateo can open the door up now for Solo Sikoa. And Jacob Fatu somehow busted out of those handcuffs. I have no idea how he did that, but he's loose, and he prevents Solo from getting out of the cage.
The moon came up at exactly the right time for this werewolf. Drew some sort of power from it, snapped those handcuffs, and he's back. Oh my God, back in the fight.
And now Solo ducks underneath again, trying to dive for the door, trying to somehow escape. Jacob Fatu trying to keep Solo in the cage.
Slither his way out of there. It's a tug of war now.
And Solo, it doesn't matter if his hands hit the floor, his feet have to in order to win the match. And now Jacob Fatu dragging Solo back into the cage. Oh goodness.
Both men took that to the head. Solo perhaps getting slightly the better of it.
And Solo Sikoa is going to win this match thanks to Tama Tonga.
Here is your winner, and still the United States Champion, Solo Sikoa.
Okay, I understand we actually have a shot of how Jacob Fatu shred the handcuffs when he was handcuffed by Tama Tonga at the top of the steel cage. And ladies and gentlemen, the replay is brought to you by Brett Death. Kill Bad Brett, become legendary. He just ripped the handcuff off his hand.
Non-human strength that is possessed by Jacob Fatu that saved the match for himself. And just when Solo Sikoa was heading for the entrance, JC Mateo getting flattened by this boot from Tama Tonga. You saw Jacob Fatu catching that steel door flush on the top of the head, and incredibly groggy Solo Sikoa scrambles out to victory.
Sikoa is still your United States champion.
Get him!
And now Solo Sikoa.
Get him!
And now Jimmy Uso back into the fight. Big kick to JC Mateo. And Mateo driven in to the cage.
Sending a message here to Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga. Solo Sikoa is not heading back into the fight to protect his family.
And Jimmy Uso is locking the door of the cage as Jacob Fatu is having his way with Mateo and Tonga Loa.
The werewolf is ready to feast now.
And there's no escaping for these MFTs.
Irate and frustrated, this might not be the end of Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. Loud message being sent here.
Fatu to the top rope.
Oh no. Oh no. Don't do it, Jacob!
Jacob's gonna climb! He's gonna climb the cage!
There's no talking sense to this guy.
From the top of the steel cage, a moonsault by Fatu! Incredible!
The most heavy-duty superstar I have ever seen from the top of the cage after already taking a beating in this match from 4 men, wiping out 50% of the MFTs in one fell swoop, and then bouncing off like he'd just taken a walk in the park. This man is uber terrifying.
Jacob Fatu takes out Solo Sikoa's crew. And Solo Sikoa is still the United States champion.
Welcome to the official Riyadh season opening ceremony 2024. Our